I first became aware of the Beatles in probably 1963. I went to East Sydney Tech, which I was doing a design course there, and by 1964 we were full-blown Beatlemaniacs. And when they all arrived in June, we stormed down from East Sydney Tech down to the Sheraton Motel and stood outside as screaming little fans when they came on to the balcony to sort of welcome to Sydney. These four mod boys were just everything that us young fashionistas wanted to look at. We wanted pretty boys. We did not like big beefy boys, and for me that mod look was just it. We were sort of like 16, 17 and we were bringing in the mod, and the Beatles were the personification of mod. Look, that concert was just so amazing, but do you know something? I mean, as soon as they started singing, we just started screaming. And I swore that, you know, John was looking right at me. It was me every time the stage went around. He was looking at me. I mean, that's how sort of crazed we were, you know. But my mother was there, and she was also yelling, but away from me. I didn't have anything to do with her. And it was just the whole stage and the whole stadium was electric with just this crazy craving for that, what we knew was something exciting that was happening. There was us girls who just knew that something was going to be happening at the Sheraton straight after the concert, so we just headed back there. There was a gaggle of us, and we just waited outside trying to get into the hotel, which was extremely hard because it was just like police everywhere. This wonderful reporter said, "I'll get you in," and so in we went, and then we had to hatch a plan. Look, there was a mastermind on this, and that was a girl called Judy Zeckley, chief Beatlemaniac mastermind. She said, "Jam the lift. Just everyone, you all go up onto each different floor and just keep pressing it, and eventually it'll jam." Now, she knew this, I don't know how, but it did. So guess what? The boys, the Beatles, had to go up the stairwell, and we girls ran to the stairwell just so that we might get the glimpse, and of course they came right past us. And John saw me and he said, and Vicky, and said, "Come up for a party." And so we thought, yeah, we'll come up for a party. I mean, we're very young. I was just 17. See, they made that song for me. And of course. And so we sort of went to the lifts, which were working by this time, and up we went onto the 8th floor, and there was just, every time the lift opened, there was just a wall of police. So, you know, down and up, but we just kept doing it. And eventually, Derek Taylor, their press manager, he sort of came between the police on the 50th time we were pressing, going up and down, and he sort of beckoned you, and then to Vicky, you, Bronwyn, you, and ushered us all into Paul and John's room, which was the party room. And so there was this sort of gaggle of all these gorgeous little teenage girls, including us, and we sort of, we got to be hanging out with them, and it was just like, we just couldn't believe that we were actually hanging out in that room. Obviously there was a chemistry between John and me, and you know, he made his move on me. And then, as the night wore on, he asked if I'd like to stay, and of course I said yes. And I was showing him how to wear contact lenses, so that was my sort of you know, way of engaging with him. And then I stayed the night, and it really was. It was a fabulous night. I mean, it was a hot night. What can I say? I mean, I had a wonderful night with John Lennon. there was a chemistry which was special, really special. My girlfriend Vicky, she got to kiss Ringo, and then her parents came to pick her up from the hotel, where I was, staying a little longer than her with John. All the girls, I mean, everyone hated us because we actually got to sort of, she got to kiss Ringo and I got to really be with John. So we decided, Vicky and I, that we would go out to try and see them as they were leaving. By this time it was full-blown Beatlemania, and there we were at the airport, but they were going around in this big sort of, I don't know whether it was a Rolls Royce or a Bentley, which was open, and they were sort of waving to everyone, and Vicky and I found this little side path, and somehow we got onto the tarmac, and John saw me again and he said, "Go into the press room." So Vicky and I once again went running round to the press room, and there was, wall to wall with police and everything all over again. But that beautiful Derek Taylor, he was such a gentleman. He came out and he, John had obviously said, go and get that Chinese, because he called me the Dragon Lady, Chinese Dragon Lady. I'll never forget it. 66, it's really good to reminisce. We got into the press room with them, and so we were able to spend, sort of 5 hours with them until he left. That was it for me. I knew that I was never going to be the same again, and I had to go to London. It was actually, John Lennon, the Beatles, that got Vicky and me and all the gang of girls. We all went to London. But for me and Vicky, it was definitely because of the Beatles and the excitement and the knowledge that there was this music and this sort of look that was happening that just wasn't happening in Sydney. I wanted art and excitement and design, and it just was so hard to find in Australia. And I used to design all my own clothes and have my dressmaker make them, and I had this very special, beautiful navy blue boucle, swallow-tailed, fitted coat made with a little skirt and a little black and white silk shirt. That was what I wore the second time to the Beatles, to Mascot, and the first time it was a checked with leather trim jacket with knee-high boots, and I had my black round sunglasses and my little mod haircut. So I think I was very cute. But I didn't look like everyone else. I dressed as a mod, and there was only a handful of us that did that. I mean, I had an edge when I was growing up, always. I guess I was always sort of a little bit ahead of my time in the way I looked. I was terribly influenced by London, but I also had my own thing going because, I wore colour, for instance, and I don't know that a lot of kids were wearing colour in London, but I did. And I knew that there was excitement somewhere in the world, and when the Beatles came to town, that was it. I knew it was London. And so did Martin Sharp, so did Richard Neville, so did so many young people. We all, we had to get boats to go to London then. I was on the Australice. There was all these other Italian boats. That's how we got to London. You didn't fly. I arrived in London in December 1965. I'd spent the 6 weeks on the boat, and arrived in London in 65. Chrissy, my darling friend Chrissy Brett, she'd already arrived in London 2 months before me, and we got to London, and she said, the first shop, she said, "I'm going to take you into Bieber." And Bieber, that was the very, very first shop. That was Abingdon Road, tiny, and that just blew my mind. There was like striped jersey dresses and long striped scarves and mini. Everything was mini. Grungy London with all its dark nightclubs and grey skies, and fabulous boutiques. Bieber being the best and the first, yeah. Then I discovered, I discovered Hung on You, which was the most really avant-garde shop, because what it was doing, it was taking vintage clothes like a chiffon dress and then turning it into, there's a photograph of me in one of those women's weeklies wearing it, then turning it into a sort of mini and changing it. So that was a fabulous shop, and that preempted me then discovering the Chelsea Antique Market, which I did in '67 and sort of just, stood there, used to haunt the place until I got a job there. The Chelsea Antique Market was when my eyes opened. I mean, Vern just absolutely educated me on the history and the beauty of cloth and clothing and fabrics. That was the joy of London. In the end, that was the joy of London for me, working amongst these exquisite dresses, learning about the history of costume, not in a museum, in a working environment where we just had fun. When I look back at the age of now 66, and I think of, the things that I'd gone through from, meeting the Beatles. I mean, I'm having a sort of a slight obsession with the Beatles again, playing their music and like Revolver and like Just Let Me Take You Down, Strawberry Fields. So, I've got this whole healthy obsession going all over again with their music.